Milani with Synthetic here, and what we are going to be showing is today we are going to be remodeling this vanity here in this lovely bathroom, and we're going to be showing how we make this old vanity go from this to this. The client had recently remodeled the rest of their bathroom. The shower and walls look beautiful, their vanity not so much. So they wanted us to make a new vanity to match the general style with the rest of the bathroom. To get the drop edge, we cut a length of MDF to the thickness that we wanted, about 1.5 inches wide. We mark it, then cut it to length. We glued that strip to our vanity top and used Bondo to fill in any gaps that were left over, and here I'm just sanding the edges completely smooth. I'm now using a router to make the edges. I use a 3/8 inch round over bit. I'll flip over the vanity and do the same to the top edge. This isn't a full bull nose. This creates what I like to call a half nose edge, and it's a really popular choice for a lot of our customers. We get our backsplashes, which we cut 6 inches wide, and we router over the front of them with an 1/8 inch round over bit. By the way, for this job we made the backsplash out of 1/2 inch MDF instead of 3/4 to better accommodate the existing depth of the electrical outlet that is in the middle of it. Now I'm painting the pieces with a paint primer in 1 in High Style Beige. Let's pause here and review our recipe for autumn travertine. Okay, so to make our autumn travertine recipe, the ingredients we'll need is first an antique white Rust-Oleum spray as well as an opaque brown dye. Those two mixed together will make our wash coat. It's just the thing we spread on the board to make it lubricated. Next, the only other dye we're going to need is an opaque white, and for our other Rust-Oleum sprays, we will have hammered copper, white, silver metallic, and French beige, and the only other additives we have are a diamond dust additive and a pearl additive. These are the steps for the dirty pour on a sample board. We tape the edges of the board to keep the epoxy in while we tilt the board. Then we add the wash coat and spread that around with a paint stick so the epoxy will flow smoothly. By the way, if you would like to see these steps for the pattern in greater detail, I posted a separate video on this process. I will add a link to that other video in the comments below. I'm now adding each of the layers back into my bucket and spray paints directly in the bucket in between layers. I pour that out on the board in stripes. The different layers will fight with each other, and that creates a really great natural effect. Torching the epoxy helps to remove bubbles and helps the epoxy flow smoothly. We then tip the board back and forth to create a natural movement that mimics how the stone was formed. So now that we did the pattern on the sample board, I will do the same thing just on a larger surface. I'm taping up the backsplash and then the vanity. I like to keep the backsplashes layered out next to the vanity so that I can carry the same effect over. Now we mix up the epoxy at an even 1-to-1 ratio for the two parts. For a dirty pour, I have found that it works best to mix just enough for the epoxy wash coat first, roughly 1 ounce per square foot, then mix the rest of the epoxy for the dirty pour at about 3 ounces per square foot. As I am pouring the epoxy, notice that I continue to pour outside the board and onto the backsplash. This way, all the effects carry onto the backsplash and it all lines up. We're torching out the bubbles now, and I asked my dad to come over and help me tilt the board so that the effects would flow.
Okay, so now we have this extra long piece of backsplash. We're just going to get that taped off and ready for our dirty pour. The customer also had an outlet that was around this spot, just right here of the backsplash. So we're going to dirty coat over it so that way it just blends in with it and it makes it look as if it's one solid piece. That way it just doesn't show out kind of tackly up against. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to tape off the back just behind here so that way the flowing doesn't go straight through here and straight off our outlet cover.
We got the shape of our sinks from our template. I taped the sink template onto the board with painter's tape and am marking that with a dry erase marker. This shows me where to cut and the mark wipes off easily afterwards. To start the cut, we drill a hole with a drill bit just large enough to fit the jigsaw blade, and then cut out along your lines with the jigsaw.
Okay, so we've got these scraps here from our vanity that are the holes that we cut out from here. In a different video, we're going to show you how to follow along and turn these into beautiful paintings, as a lot of scraps are completely usable. Just use every piece of the product. And if you want to watch that, then follow us along in another video in our artwork videos.
Now I sanded the hole smooth using a sanding drum and my drill and am painting all of the edges with Red Guard to give a protective water barrier. Red Guard goes on bright pink. When it turns a solid red, the paint is dry.
So we're here on installation day at the client's house. They had opted to do their own demolition. That's a great option that we have. Great to just save your own money.
We grabbed the vanity and did a dry fit just to make sure everything looks good. The customer is dry fitting the sinks in, and if your templates are good, everything fits in nicely. So I am adding a silicone adhesive to set it down permanently.
Okay, so we have here our backsplashes now freshly trimmed, as well as Vanity now
nicely with the sinks installed. Vanity also made to conform to the walls. These backsplashes are very nice the way that we usually try to do it. We try to make it sort of align a little bit with the pattern that's already there. And so even though this is slightly out of alignment, you can see here that this sort of continues the vein here that's going across on the vanity itself. As well as here we have sort of this paler patch, and it is continuing upwards through this part. Now we're just going to have to cut out for our light socket out of this backsplash here. Okay, so now we've marked off where our outlet should go. We've done that here in blue painter's tape. Now, normally for some of you, you might be wondering why couldn't we have done this with a pencil? Well, our countertop surface is very mark resistant, which is good. It's supposed to be. It makes it so that stuff doesn't get all grimy and nasty on here, and it makes it easy to clean, but it also makes it different to mark than something like wood. So we have our nice painter's tape here if we wanted, and if we had them here, we could have used dry erase markers and then just wiped off afterwards, after ourselves once we're done with the cut. But blue painter's tape works really well for a second reason as well. See, when you cut out here, sometimes pieces of the wood underneath the epoxy will chip off and bring off some of the epoxy with it. And so it's really nice to have this tape here because it actually creates a second protective layer and it makes it so that it doesn't chip as much. Now we just sort of get our outlet cover here. See that no tape sticking out. It's nice. Good amount of space for our outlet cover to cover everything, and we'll be good. A little bit more. I am now dotting silicone adhesive to the backsplashes. Using the dot method will cause the backsplash to adhere to the high points along the wall. In this shot you can see that the outlet cover that we epoxy coated to match everything came out looking great. If ever you have a mirror that's kind of a bit like that around the edges, what you can do is you can just cut out a bit of these strips of wood and glue them up flush around the edges. And we have our silicone adhesive. We've gone along it in dots rather than beading to make sure that it doesn't sort of warp, because walls are a bit, they look straight, they're not straight. So instead of making it so that it tries to completely perfectly conform to it and then we'll end up looking a little weird, we have it so that it'll adhere, but it'll still keep its straight shape. Here's how everything came out. Remember how it started? They had an outdated ceramic tile counter. The grout lines were hard to keep clean and it clashed with their new tiled shower. We replaced that with an epoxy coated vanity that is easy to clean and gives a timeless look. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. If you like our videos, be sure to hit that like button, share our videos with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. From all of us here at Stonethetic, built by you, built for less, built to last, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching!